Lincoln Brown is a social impact focused investor, philanthropist, and serial entrepreneur. He has started 4 businesses, of which 3 succeeded, and in aggregate have generated over $1.5 billion in revenue. These businesses were in mobile gaming, precision healthcare, and early childhood development. He is currently the chairman and co-founder of KidStrong, the largest early childhood development program in the United States with 110 locations nationwide. In addition, he co-founded Grant Ready Kentucky with a focus on underserved areas in the Commonwealth. He also serves on the board of RARE, an international environmental conservation nonprofit. Lincoln graduated from the Wharton School of Business with a BSc in economics and a double concentration in finance and management. Please give a round of applause and welcome to the stage, Mr. Lincoln Brown. Thanks for being here. Glad to we got this live streaming and stuff too.
All right.
Lincoln, thanks for being here and making time out of your crazy travel schedule to be with us.
Great to be here.
I want to start, Lincoln, for a person as accomplished as you and a person that has traveled the world and started businesses in different places. And what does it mean to be from Kentucky? What does it mean to be a Kentuckian?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm so happy to be here. I woke up this morning and just a quick story. And I'd asked my son to pack a suitcase for me last night to get here on time. And I woke up and he had put a suit in, but he had accidentally put my tuxedo in, not my suit. So I had to scramble this morning. I could either wear a tuxedo here or a t-shirt and a scramble to find a appropriate shirt. So a few people helped me out.
You look good.
All right, thank you. But being a Kentuckian, it's all my family's ever known. My grandfather's from Union County, small town in western Kentucky, and committed his whole life to public service. He was the 11th child of a tenant farmer and just grew up and instilled in our entire family, my dad, my older brother, my sister, my entire family, that public service is the best use of your time. And we kind of grew up talking about it all the time at the dinner table. And then my dad was elected into governor before I was born, and had a successful career in Kentucky in business and in politics. Just loved public service. My brother's been in public service. It's not for me. I've got a great admiration for the men who spoke today. And it's a tough job. It's a thankless job. It's a hard job. It wasn't, it was a hard way to grow up, and didn't want my son to grow up that way. And so there's a lot of ways to help Kentucky, though.
That's right, and there's no doubt you're doing it in a lot of different ways. We were fortunate yesterday to have Nate Morris on this stage, another great Kentucky entrepreneur, JP Blevins, who has a fantastic story. And I asked this question to them both, and I'm interested to get your points. But you obviously believe in Kentucky. You have a special interest in the underserved, mostly rural parts of Kentucky. So as you look ahead and as you dedicate your time, what do you feel like from like a business and an investment climate standpoint? What do these underserved areas, what does Kentucky have to do to continue to be an attractive place for people to invest capital, and at the same time for founders to want to start businesses that create jobs?
Well, when I think of Eastern Kentucky, which is I think the point of the question, I told someone last night, pre-COVID, I wouldn't have been as optimistic if someone asked me about the future of Eastern Kentucky, but post-COVID, in this remote workforce environment, I would say Eastern Kentucky is one of the best places in the country to invest, because what people are looking for in this new culture where you can work from anywhere in the world is a high quality of life and low cost of living. And where else would you want to go but here? And half of the people who are moving from these big cities where they don't want to work and live in 700 square foot apartments is they want to move to rural areas, half. And Eastern Kentucky's got an unfair advantage. It's beautiful here, welcoming. And I think, as you build the infrastructure, which I know we'll talk about in a bit, it's a great place to be. And if you think of Eastern Kentucky in 2030 and 2040, it's exciting.
Well, let's stay on that thread a little bit, because I think that's a really interesting conversation. And obviously we're involved in remote work, and our viewpoint is it's a big it's
Yeah.
a big sphere, and we know that long term. You have to connect more of your domestic, your own people to some of these remote work jobs. But we think too, we agree with you that there's this opportunity to
Yeah.
capture some of these geographical free agents, right,
Yeah.
over the next 3 to 5 years that are looking to move, that already have employment, that are looking for safe communities and some of these
Yeah.
things. Talk about how do we really capture, because here's the thing, we can play that hand now, but so can a lot of other rural areas.
That's right.
So what does Eastern Kentucky and communities that say, hey, we've got a great community here, we have some of a competitive advantage in a lot of ways, or competitive advantages in this new remote work world. What do you think we have to do to continue to stand out from the pack and be seen as a premier destination for a remote worker with a six-figure salary that's looking for a different place to raise their family?
Well, there's two ways to answer. One is with a lot of statistics and data, which all support Eastern Kentucky. But what you made me think about just now is, if everyone's heard of Austin, Texas. If you go back 30 years to early 1990s, Austin, Texas was not what it is today. One of the most dynamic cities in the United States. And a company named Trilogy moved there and brought in hundreds of software engineers and built a technology culture in Austin that has since thrived. As kind of acorns go off and develop oak trees, it's the same there. And it's built a culture there and an ecosystem. And when I think of Eastern Kentucky, I know the great work you're doing, but you need help, right? It takes a village to be able to create that ecosystem where people want to move somewhere and be a part of a community. And it takes everyone pitching in and really welcoming them in, just like you're recruiting someone to the football team. And, we were with Jeff Marietta last night, and he's doing incredible work. Jeff could live anywhere in the country and be really successful. But, there's people like you and Jeff and SOAR, and you just need help, and it needs more of that ecosystem. Lexington 20 years ago didn't have any ecosystem. And since then, Brian Rainey and Awesome Inc. has really helped build a startup and tech ecosystem. And you just got to keep, pushing the ball up the hill.
Your answer is interesting because it pretty much mirrors what JP and Nate hit on yesterday, which is you talked about Trilogy in Austin, but just kind of landing those first, from a company standpoint. And we're fortunate here. We have one in Ragent Corporation. They're a big support, and they're doing great work. They're in Moorhead. But it gets easier once you land those first few. But talk about what are those places? What's it going to take? I mean, obviously Nate and JP talked about the familial, people wanting to build, founders wanting to build where they're from. But what can communities do to continue to say, hey, like, we want you here? How do you stand out in that? I don't want to say site selects, but that competitive say to say, hey, come do it here and let's start to build something together.
You need someone who wants to come home. It's kind of like, think of the football team that's struggling, can't hire the best coaches, but someone wants to come home and help their team, And I think JP and Nate are right, but it's competitive now, like you said. There's hundreds of programs across the country who are trying to attract remote workers. So it's got to be an aggressive effort, and you got to stand out, and you got to find a point of difference. And I don't have all the answers, but I know that when people see Eastern Kentucky and what's available here, and get past any stereotypes that might exist in New York or in California, right, or in Boston or in other areas, they're just blown away. They can't believe it. But you got to get them here. You got to create an incentive for them to come in. It's a big effort.
Yeah, it is.
And you're doing a great job.
Well, got a good team behind, and but to your point, what we found with some of our pilot work with Make My Move and with support from the Appalachian Regional Commission and Kentucky Power it is sales. And it's when that first lead comes in, it's hopping on them quick and having that first conversation as soon as you can and making that good first impression. Right. And we found that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and just get them here for a year. If you can get them here for a year, they stay. Yeah. All the data says. Get them here for 1 year, they're not going to leave.
Yeah, that's right, because nobody likes to move.
That's right.
That's right. Well, let's switch a little bit. Let's talk about Grant Ready, Kentucky, because we've been so fortunate to sort of have a great partnership with Grant Ready, Kentucky. Hannah on your team, Hannah Conover, is just first class, and these grant workshops that we know you guys have done more than that, but this grant ecosystem, because we know there's record amounts of federal and state funding that's out there. So talk a little bit about being a founder or a co-founder of Grant Ready Kentucky, kind of what the vision was there, and kind of what you're hoping to do with it, and how SOAR and other organizations are here can help you in that mission.
Well, I've had the good fortune to have 3 successful startups now, and I'd say that what we're doing with Grant Ready has the chance to be more important and more impactful than anything else I've ever worked on, especially for Eastern Kentucky. And I really mean transformative. My quick story, I moved home for the reason that I was living on the East Coast and West Coast, and My mom was in Kentucky, and she wasn't doing well, and I moved home and knew she didn't have long left. So we had a lot of late night talks, and I remember her saying once, when talking about giving back, I've been doing work in Haiti for 20 years. My son's from Africa, but she said, Lincoln, charity starts at home. Charity starts at home. And she talked about the craftspeople and working across the strait and the creative work of the hand and just how great the people of Kentucky were, and it just stuck with me. And when she passed away, I just made a commitment that I'm not gonna get involved in public service, but I want to help Kentucky. And so I reached out to Hannah Conover, who you mentioned, who's as capable of a person as I've ever worked with, and just triple sharp and loves Kentucky. And we decided we're going to do something. So we met with 165 different people across the state to understand what are the opportunities, what's working in other states, what can we do here. And a year ago, we decided to make it real. And we launched Grant Ready, and I said, look, I'll support it. I'll put up some of the money to help us get started. And a weekend, she called, and she was so excited. And she doesn't usually get that excited. She's a CPA. And I said, what's so exciting? She said, well, there's $3 trillion in federal funding that's been set aside from these 4 different bills, right? ARPA, Infrastructure Act, CHIPS and Sciences. And a large portion of that is being set aside for distressed communities. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And she said, well, there's 25 regions in the country that the federal government's identified for this funding, hundreds of billions of dollars. And she said, number 2 in the entire country is Eastern Kentucky, 21 counties here. Number 6 is Western Kentucky, 20 counties there. And we're talking about a lot of money. And I said, well, what's the catch? And she said, well, there's 5 years, it's gotta be all given away. And I was like, oh man, the clock's ticking. And so I called Bob Babbage. I don't know if you know Bob. He's incredible. And I said, Bob, I just explained it to him. I said, what do you think? He said, well, it's a great idea, but it's 3 months to session. We can't do anything this year. And I was like, come on, of course we can. He said, no, Lincoln, it's never happened before. We got 3 months. And I said, you're Bob Babbage. Come on, we can make this happen. Let's set up a couple meetings. And as a way only Bob Babbage could, and Rebecca Hartsoe, who works for him, who's just a superstar, they set up 46 meetings with legislators the last 3 months of last year. In the cafeteria, grabbed them in the hallways, in the parking lot, wherever you can grab them. And President Stivers, Speaker Osborne, Chairman Heath, Chairman Petrie, and Senator McDaniel, really, these are people you may not know, but you should know, all got behind it and saw the opportunity. And it was really the feel-good bill of the 2023 session. We got it passed with unanimous support, both sides. And it was just lightning in a bottle. And one of the most senior legislators said, I didn't get his permission to say this, but he said it could be the most important, one of the 2 or 3 most important pieces of legislation of his entire career. And so what does it mean for Eastern Kentucky? Well, there's the potential for there to be billions of dollars, literally, for Eastern and Western Kentucky to be available in federal grants in the next 4 years. And as part of House Bill 9, you need to apply, put a business plan together, and think big. They don't want books for the 3rd grade classroom. They want you to think big. They want projects 200, 300,000 and above that are really going to move the needle for the state. And then the state will consider offering match funding to these federal grant dollars that are coming in. And then at Grant Ready, we work with you and SOAR, and we've had great success together. Trained almost 500 people this year in Kentucky with the workshops we've done together to bring people and educate them how to apply for a grant. And we even provide professional grant writing services to those most in need for free, right? So we help educate and we help people understand, okay, there's money for you. You got nothing to lose. Let's write a grant. Let's do a good job. And let's move this state forward. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And every nonprofit, every local government should know about this. They should go to energycommunities.gov or greatreadyky.org to learn more. But this is a big opportunity. It is literally, even for SOAR, right? It could bring a lot of money to SOAR and help you build out the rest of your amazing team that you have here. So it's just a really big opportunity, once in a generation.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good one. I want to ask you something else, because kind of backtracking a little bit.
Yeah.
You talked about doing work in Haiti and some distressed parts of the world. Something we talked about yesterday was, that for that entrepreneur, for that small business owner, or really, anybody with ambition and aspirations in Eastern Kentucky, they could, have a higher likelihood of being born into circumstances that they have a lot of upfront hurdles, than other places that are maybe similar to people in Haiti. In your experience, how have folks been able to rise above those circumstances when those odds seem insurmountable and to fight through? and to take that next step? Like, what would you recommend to that entrepreneur that says, hey, I'm trying to build something. I don't have the same access as everybody else, but how do I play bigger than the hand that I've been dealt?
It's a great question. Haiti broke my heart the first time, literally broke my heart, because if you're a young man in Haiti, a young woman in Haiti, and you do everything right, you work hard, you've got a great character, and you study, it really doesn't matter that much. You can only go so far, right? And you don't have the opportunities. That's why I just felt such a calling there. But when I think about here in America, a great story is my business partner. He's from Breathitt County, grew up in a holler, had nothing, and he's my best friend in the world. And he started a business that we've now grown, but started with $8,000 in the back of a warehouse where you had to park next to a dumpster to come into the business. And in our first year, we couldn't fall through the floor. It just didn't go that well. We had a hard time getting it going. People loved it, but he just had this vision and this passion for children from 1 through 8. And fast forward now 5 years, and with his will, we partnered together 4 years ago, and we're opening our 100th location this month. On track, we have a chance to open 1,000 over time, but the reason it's important is he didn't have a lot of money, right? But he had a vision, and he believed, and with about $10,000, was able to prove out something and then attract other people to come partner with him. And so you can do anything in this country, right? I mean, if you really wanted to, you can find the $10,000. If you've got the dream, you've got the vision, you can put something together, you can prove it, but it's a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. You're not gonna be with your family very much, and it's hard. I've had 4 businesses, 1 failed. My dad, has had some big successes, but when I grew up, he started 14 businesses in the time I grew up, so it's all I knew. Most of those didn't work out, right? But you hear about the ones that did, right? And it gives you so many more opportunities. So you gotta be willing to take a chance. I think anyone in the United States, you just gotta be willing to take a chance.
We'll talk about staying as you're fighting and you're taking chances and you're dealing with failure, the emotional intelligence it takes to stay even keel, right?
I think you have to be crazy. I think you gotta be crazy. I mean, because it doesn't make sense. The first year, Elon Musk says, is like staring into the abyss, right? You don't have a lot of reason for success. I'm sure the first year of SOAR was hard, right? You're just like, how's this ever gonna work, But if you get it out there and you give the idea time to breathe and attract the right people into it, and it's always who before what, like you've got a great team here. So I know SOAR's gonna be successful because you got great people with you. And it's no different in any business, but you just gotta grind it out that first year. Commit to getting through the first 12 months no matter what.
But how did you do that when you were staring into the abyss? What motivated you to keep pushing through?
Well, it's not really a conversation for here, but our family went through a really hard time. When you're an entrepreneur, when times are good, they're great. When they're not so good, they're really hard. And our family certainly went through that. And I was at 29 years old, and I realized at that moment I had no other choice, right? And when you go in and you burn the boats, you burn the ships, right? It's an old Greek war analogy that you can't go back, you got to win. That was the kind of motivation I needed because we had it was heavy. And I fought. It's a lot of 90-hour weeks for 4 years. And in my 5th year, I had a lot of success. And we got through it. But the first year and a half, we never knew if we were going to make it, right? But we had no choice. You just go to bed every night. We got to figure it out. Failure is not an option. And now I did fail once, and it crushed my soul. And I keep those memories with me every day with everything I'm building. But everyone can do it.
Burn the boats.
Burn the boats.
Urgency. To me, that's how you define hunger.
You burn the boats.
I think that embodies the spirit of a lot of Eastern Kentucky communities where we are.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people.
That's the spirit here. My grandfather used to talk about it. The toughest people. He'd always say they got a chip on their shoulder, but you can trust them, and they're willing to fight. Yeah.
Last question here, and we kind of talked a little bit, but looking ahead 10 years, and you have some of that long-term vision. Our SOAR blueprint, there's a lot of ground that we cover from broadband and from workforce development and industrial recruitment and tourism, downtown revitalization. But in your mind, what are the top 2 or 3 things that as a region or as a state that we have to keep at the top of the list, if that makes sense?
I would say apply for these free federal funds, build the infrastructure, build the parks, the water systems, the housing, right? Infrastructure, roads. There's so many opportunities, right? Like think about if you're able to bring in $500 million even, and I think it'll be much more for Eastern Kentucky. Think about that, what that would do for the region, right? For everybody, because it rises everybody up, right? When Trilogy went to Austin, it rose the entire city up. Everybody benefits, right? You got more restaurants, everything kind of opens up. And I think I would really focus there because I think you'll get a lot of generic answers, but this is real money, once in a generation opportunity for Eastern Kentucky. And I think everyone, they need it. They want as many good applications as they can get, right? The state government wants it. Your legislatures want it. The executive branch wants it. I talked to Rocky Atkins this morning. He said, yeah, this is important. It's a big opportunity for the state. He really cares. And so everybody's all in. What else are we doing in the state that's bipartisan in this polarized world that we live in, right? All the Republicans, all the Democrats fully behind it. So I don't mean to just divert the question, but it is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Eastern Kentucky.
Well, we're fortunate we've got a great start with, Congressman Rogers' leadership and many others on broadband with the Celicom, the Kentucky Middle Mile Network, and so many great last mile providers in the region, and 2 roads as well. And obviously not where we, but we're headed in the right direction and have a lot of good stuff to springboard off of. But I agree with you. It is a big opportunity, but we're so glad and lucky to have you and Hannah and the Grant Ready team to be able to support, because grants are hard.
Grants are hard. They're hard. They're really I'm not smart enough to figure them out. Okay.
They're hard.
I mean, I went to business school, everything else, but that's why we help people, right? We help you, show you what they are, and we'll help you write the grants, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
just last thing, I remember my dad saying last year, we were talking about, loved to talk about Eastern Kentucky and people in the mountains, because they're just, my whole life growing up, it was near and dear to our heart. And he said, I just wish they believed in them as much as I believe in them, or we believe in them, right? They got to dream big. They got to, they think small sometimes. They said, just believe in yourself, really go for it, take a chance. And, as I'm here and seeing you take a chance and build up the region, and the people you had speaking today is incredible. It's just, I hope this region really dreams big, and I hope we can bring billions of dollars to federal funding to Eastern Kentucky to really help build up the region, and it'll attract more people.
Well, Lincoln, I appreciate your thoughts and enjoyed the conversation today. Appreciated your time. Folks, can we give a round of applause for Lincoln Brown here?
Yeah.